Okay, so in this example, I am going to do an expression and an equation both exactly at the same time. So you can see exactly what we do the same and what we do differently. So you notice here, this one is an expression because it has no equal sign. Means we're going to simplify it, we're going to get an LCD, and we're going to keep our denominators. This one, then, oh my goodness, looks exactly the same, but it's an equation. It has an equal sign. So we're going to solve this one. We're going to get an LCM, and we're going to end up with an answer x equals or t equals, or in this case, r equals, whatever. Okay? So I am going to show you the first step of each one. Do that. So our first step on our expression is to factor everything in our denominators. So this would be plus 3 and plus 5. And because I don't have a lot of time, I'm not going to go through all the steps. You guys can come ask me if you need to later. If something you aren't sure how I got from one place to another. But by now you should be good enough with the factoring. You should be okay with this. And that's going to be 2 and 3, so it's going to be minus 2 plus 3, add those two together, plus 1, yep, negative. And this one's going to be r, and that's 5 and 2, so minus 2 and plus 5. That makes positive 3 and negative. Okay, we're good. All right, so now I'm going to build my LCD because this is an expression. There's no equal sign. I'm going to take everything from the first guy, no matter what it is, build my foundation. Now I'm going to pretend like the first and the last one don't exist, and I'm just going to look at this one. Okay. And I see that I need one in my building. I need one quantity r minus 2. Do I have a quantity of r minus 2 yet? I do not, so I need to include it. And now I need to look at this guy, pretend the other two don't exist, and this says in my, oh, excuse me, I forgot to look here on this one, a quantity r plus 3. But I already have a quantity r plus 3 in my building, so I don't need to worry about that. Now this one, this third one over here, pretend the other two don't exist. It tells me in my building I have to have one quantity r minus 2. Do I have that? I do, so I don't need to put that in. And it also tells me I need to have one quantity r plus 5. Do I have that? I certainly do. Okay, now let's go to the expression. What's our first step? Well, guess what, guys? It's factoring all the denominators. So this one was plus 3 and plus 5. And this one is minus 2 and plus 3. And this one is 2 and 5 minus 2 and plus 5. And now I'm going to create my LCM. Okay, well, once again, I take everything from the first one to make my foundation. Then I look at the second one, need to include this guy, and now I'm done. However, I do need to figure out what my r cannot be, and it can't be a negative 5, a negative 3, or a positive 2. Remember, I set this guy equal to 0 and solve. I set this guy equal to 0 and solve. And I set this guy equal to 0 and solve. And that way when I do, I come up with a negative 5, a negative 3, and a positive 2. Okay, now let's go back to our expression. So our next step here is to write down our first one exactly like it is. But now I have to look at this and say, What do I need to multiply with these two in the denominator to get everything that's in my LCD? Well, that would be r minus 2. If I do that in the denominator, I have to do it in the numerator. Okay? And then I write down my next term exactly like it is. R plus 3. And then I say, what do I need to multiply with all of these to get everything in my my LCD? Well, let me see. That would be r plus 5. If I do that in my denominator, I need to do it in my numerator. And then, sorry guys, I forgot to turn that off. Forgive me. Okay, so many things to coordinate here. Okay, then I'm going to write the third one down exactly like it is, always with the denominator in factored form. And then once again, I need to look at this and say, okay, what do I need to multiply with these in the denominator to get everything in my LCD? Well, this time it's r plus 3. If I do that in my denominator, I need to do it in my numerator. Okay, now let's go back to our equation and see what we need to do here with this one, because this is where we do something a little bit different as well. So remember, first I put my LCM out in front on the left side, and then I'm going to multiply it with my first term. Okay, and then I'll put my sign, and then I write my LCM again. And again, remember guys, I know this seems like a really long, involved step, but I guarantee you, if you get used to doing this one, you will save yourself time and headache galore. 2r minus 2, r plus 3, and then my equal sign, and then once again I'm going to, and I'm just putting this in a different color so you can really see it. You guys don't need to put it in a different color. R minus 2, and then I'm going to multiply it with my last term, 2, and that's r minus 2 and r plus 5. Okay, so now let's go back to our expression. Let's look at how our expression looks, and let's look at how our equation looks. Once again, let's look at our expression, and then let's look at our equation. Okay, let's go on to the next step with our expression. So now I know what my denominator is for this, and r minus 2. So they're all the same, the denominators. And so I have the one denominator, and now I'm just going to do whatever I need to do in the numerator. So r squared minus 2r, and remember when I'm distributing this guy, it's also with a negative. So it's negative 2r minus 10. Same with this guy. Take the negative with him. So negative 2r and minus 6. Okay, I'm just going to finish this guy up. So then this is r squared 246 minus 6r, and then 10 minus 16 over r plus 3, r plus 5, r minus 2. I may or may not be done here yet. I'm not sure. Let's go back and do the next step on this guy. So I can cross cancel this and this one. I can cross cancel this and this one. Cross cancel this and this one. And now our next step is to write what's left. So r minus 2, and then negative 2. I pull this guy out front because it's easier for me to distribute and see it this way. Oops. 5. And then equals, again, I'm going to put this out here and see what's left. And you see here, this one has no denominators left at all, as opposed to this guy who still has denominators left. Okay? So let's go back to the equation. And again, r squared minus 2r minus 2r minus 10, 2r plus 6, r squared minus 4r minus 10 equals 2r plus 6. This is a quadratic equation, so I need to get it in standard form. This guy's my only r squared, so I'm going to put everything on this side. Subtract 2r and subtract 6. Okay, let's go back and finish up our, I need to see about factoring this guy because I might be able to cross cancel with something. So that would have to be a positive 2 and a minus 8. When I add those two together, I get negative 6. Positive times negative is negative. But there's nothing here that I can cross cancel, so I can either leave it this way or this way, and this one's done. Let's go back to our equation and finish up there. So this we just need to factor. We get r and r plus 2 minus 8, r plus 2 equals 0, and r minus 8 equals 0. So we get r equals negative 2 and r equals 8. Now let's double check and see if we can use those. Let's see, it is negative 2, so I'm okay there because that's positive 2, and the 8. So r equals negative 2 or 8. Please write it like this, not like the book does. Now let's just pretend for a minute, if I have that long pretend, let's just pretend that I ended up with it being r equals 2 and 8. Can I use both of those? I can't use the 2 because if I put 2 in here, I'll end up with 0 in the denominator. So then I only write what I can, what works, and then I get r equals 8. Let's pretend again that maybe I ended up with r equals, wasn't it negative 5 and 2. And now I look up here and I go, oh, I can't have either one of those. Because if I put negative 5 in here, I'll end up with a 0 in the denominator. So now what's my answer? Well, it is the null set. Its name is NULL set. It's the answer to this problem, means there is no number that will work. Do not ever write these words for me. That would be like writing plus, and every time you did, you wrote this. Okay? But we're going to use the null set quite a bit. So those are your 3 options for writing answers. Hopefully this comparison has helped.